Season 3 is here for Warzone 2 and Modern Warfare 2, and it looks like a pretty exciting update, with lots of content to come, even with a return of Plunder as well as ranked play coming along later in the season. But in this video we're focusing on the updated best controller settings for Warzone 2 and Modern Warfare 2. And we start with arguably the most important controller setting, and that's the button layout. With the button layout, we simply want to ensure that we can do all the different movement mechanics in the game that can give us an edge, but as easily and as natural as possible. So generally that just means two things in Call of Duty. That means jump shotting and drop shotting, which is why some people get paddled controllers, so they can more intuitively press jump or crouch whenever they need to. But if you do just have a standard controller, then I'm gonna recommend to you something I've recommended for a long time now, and that's bumper jumper tactical. By having the left bumper as jump or mantle, and then having the right stick clicked in as crouch or going prone, it means that we can do all of the different important movement mechanics in Warzone, but with a standard controller. If you aren't using it yet, I absolutely recommend it, although it does take a little getting used to. If you want to go a step further in trying to get an edge on your opponent, I recommend enabling flipped. This just flips your triggers and bumpers, and means that the aiming in button and the shoot button can now be clicked that little bit quicker, since you can click a button in milliseconds quicker than you click the trigger in. This isn't super important, but it is a good option. But if bumper jumper tactical isn't for you, and you still want to be able to do all of the different movement mechanics on a standard controller, you can actually enable custom button layout and assign the buttons to be whatever you need them to be, but I'll leave that up to you for now. Next up is stick sensitivity. My kind of general rule of thumb with this is that you want it to be as high as possible until you miss your shots, which is a little bit of a cop-out if I am recommending new settings. So in terms of numbers, I'd recommend most people go somewhere between 6 and 9. Now that's just going to be for most people. Some people can play on way higher than that. But if you are looking to increase your sensitivity and you are missing 1 or 2 shots, obviously if you just practice more, you're going to get used to that. Or in the short term, you can just turn down your ADS sensitivity multiplier. This simply refers to the sensitivity when you're actually aimed in. Put this down to like a 0.8 or 0.85, and you'll find even on a higher sensitivity than you normally play on, you're going to be able to hit most of your shots like you normally would. Now, before we get into the rest of the settings and learn how to get ahead of our opponents, I want to tell you how you can get ahead of your enemies in today's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. Raid had its 4th anniversary just last month and has over 80 million downloads already. And to be honest, I can see why. This completely free to play game has insanely good graphics for a mobile game, equivalent to console or even PC graphics. And that's before you get into the depth of content. It has over 650 completely unique champions to collect, and you can customize them in billions of different ways. Raid even has new champions and updates every single month, so there's always new ways to take on the tons of bosses in the game. Since it is Raid's 4th birthday, I was thinking which Raid champions I'd invite to a dinner party. And it would have to be Tatura Rhymehide, mostly so they can play with Juno, my dog. I'm sure that would go very well. Then Raglan would be great. Being the best reviver in Raid, they can bring us back round if we eat or drink too much. The Sky Touch Shaman has got to be there. She would just have insane stories. Then Glycea Soul Guide, the Ice Queen, would round off the group nicely, if not just to sort out the ice cream for dessert. So there's a lot going on in Raid Shadow Legends, and it continues to get even bigger with their live PvP arena, where you can battle other players and earn some mega rare rewards. With all of this exciting stuff and more coming to Raid, you've got to give it a try. Use my link in the description or scan my QR code to get insane bonuses such as the Epic Champion Knight Errant, along with energy refills, skill tome, and an XP booster. Thanks again to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring today's video. Okay, back to the important controller settings. Now we come to automatic sprint, and this is one of the most important settings to improve your movement. You want this setting on automatic tactical sprint, so the second you move your analog forward, you're going to go into a full tactical sprint. Obviously, this is the quickest way to move in the game, so getting into that sprint as fast as possible makes all the difference. Of course, for interact and reload behavior, we want prioritize interact. In a battle royale such as Warzone 2, where we do a lot of looting, this allows us to simply tap our loot button rather than hold on to it. This just saves us a lot of time, and I actually see many players still not run this. For armor plates behavior, I recommend apply all. This means we have to do fewer clicks to apply all of our armor, and now Warzone has been updated so we can actually move much quicker when applying armor. It's a great setting to have on. It frees up our fingers on the controller as well as our mind to focus on movement mechanics and running away if there are enemies nearby, rather than having to click for each armor plate. Then as we come to advanced controller settings, obviously for aim aim assist, we want this enabled. And then for the aim assist type, I recommend using Black Ops. For most players, I think Black Ops or defaults are going to be the best options, but for me, Black Ops seems a little bit stronger of an aim assist. When Warzone 2 actually came out, the Black Ops aim assist was kind of busted and super overpowered, and since they have nerfed it, but for me, it's still the best option. Now, if you do play third person, whether that's on Modern Warfare 2 or the Warzone 2 playlists, you want your ADS correction type on assist. As the description says, this corrects your aim and prioritizes keeping your crosshair pointing at other players. So this is perfect for when you're transitioning from third person to first person aim with various scopes. For aim response curve type, I'm still rocking dynamic. This curve type allows you to be a lot snappier on your analog sticks, so it's perfect for close range engagements, SMG players, or Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer in general. But if you play Warzone 2 in such a way that most of your engagements are long distance, I'd actually recommend using linear as your curve type. Linear doesn't have any software that's altering how quick your movement is on the speed relative to your sticks. So however much you move your sticks, that's how much you're going to move on the screen. For ADS sensitivity transition, we want this on instant. For dead zone, we want this as low as possible before we get stick drift. This is an important setting and people don't realize, because if your dead zone setting is too high, it essentially means we get an input delay. So generally I'd recommend everyone starts as low as possible, goes into a game, and just stand still, or move the analogs a little bit and then leave them. If your aim starts drifting around, just go back to your settings, put this up a little bit, and then go back into the game and try it again, and keep doing that until you're on as low as you can go, and your aim isn't drifting around the screen. Now we come down to specific movement behavior settings. The default settings here try and assist you quite a lot with grabbing onto things or jumping up on things. But generally, when you're trying to run around the map and maybe jump away from people, jump onto buildings, or jump into window ledges, we don't want a lot of these settings on. We want to be under our own control. That being said, I do recommend leaving on grounded mantle, then change your automatic airborne mantle to partial. This means it only grabs something if it would prevent a fall, but you don't grab onto anything when you're in the air. For example, if we want to try and grab onto a window ledge, the jump spot may require us to avoid grabbing onto something else. So by putting it on partial, that's going to help us out. Or you can go one step further and just turn it off. Then for automatic ground mantle, I recommend turning this off as well. If you have this setting on and you're sprinting around, it's possible that the game will make you mantle up on things. And obviously if you're doing that, you can't really keep aiming in and be ready for the next gunfight. So it's going to get you killed. That's why I turn it off. I'd rather be in control of my own fate. Then I recommend inverting your slide and dive behavior. Obviously we can't slide cancel in this game, and we can't even shoot while we're sliding. So it's a pretty irrelevant movement mechanic at the moment. And by having this setting on inverted, it means that we dive just by tapping our button rather than holding onto it. So we can do this action much quicker, and diving can actually be useful if you're diving onto the point or diving across a corridor or something like that. For parachute auto deploy, turn that off. It means we can just manually pull up our parachutes closer to the floor, getting a jump on all our enemies when we jump from the plane. For weapon mounts movement exit, I'd recommend turning this off. This is the fastest way to get out of mounting and get to cover if you're being shot. You simply have to release your aiming down sights, and then you stop mounting and you can duck for cover or whatever you need to do. And now that you've finished up here, you can head over to this video and check out the latest best graphic settings for console and Warzone as well. Or if you're feeling a little nostalgic for Warzone 1, check this video out where I go over the greatest moments in Warzone 1.